She could, so I wouldn't know. But,
She could get onto the back of the bumper like Marty McFly.
yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of that when you're talking of you watched the whole trilogy or you watched some movies in one day. I was like, oh, I did that with Back to the Future. I watched all those in a day.
Yeah.
Oh, Alien, or what was it, Predator or something?
No, Alien.
Yeah,
that
Alien.
I was talking about.
You thought you had an alien growing inside you.
Yeah,
I
felt so real after I woke up.
Yeah, I wanted a hoverboard after that, and
we all did.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? Is that your favorite trilogy?
Yeah, my favorite. Yeah, that's the only trilogy. You kidding me? I mean, some people talk about Star Wars and stuff, or whatever is the original trilogy, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of into Back to the Future, but I did notice that George Lucas did a lot of that stuff. Isn't that all his stuff? Like
No. Back to the Future is Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, that's right. All right. Yeah, he has the Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But yeah, sometimes I think that when movies get remade, like if they remade Back to the Future right now with new people, I think that would ruin it for the trilogy.
Well, you're lucky because it's in their contracts that they can never make a remake or a Part 4 or anything like that without their permission, and they're never going to give it.
That's good. Well, you don't ever know. I mean,
No, they're pretty adamant, and Part 3 came out in 1990.
If you want to talk about a scary movie, imagine if executives from some type of film industry went after Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox with, not so much attorneys, but just did things to add discomfort to their life in order to take away their financial income amount or whatever, like all the money they have.
Okay.
They just did away in order to put the person, like for instance, Nirvana. The Kurt Cobain blew his brains out because he didn't want his music to get into like the mainstream and stuff like that. Supposedly.
He blew his brains out.
Courtney Love then goes and sells his music years later because she ran into financial trouble, and she was the girlfriend who had the, at least I think, I don't know, I could just be talking on my ass right now.
But where are you going with this?
I am saying that conspiracy theory, there could be possibly a way that some people could go after and financially disrupt Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd so they sign the rights over. Or when the rights...
It's not their rights to sign over. It's Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. And even if Michael J. Fox signed the rights over...
I'm just looking like an idiot right now on this whole television thing right here.
Michael J. Fox, I'm sorry to say this, but he is not in his prime.
No, he's not.
And he's incapacitated, so you can't even have Marty without recasting him, unfortunately.
You'd be surprised at what you can do with the green screen nowadays and those auto shakes. I don't know. Like they put what's his name's face on someone else's body.
You're talking about Terminator, Tron with Lloyd Bridges, where they made him look 30 years younger.
Yeah, they also put Terminator's head on our mutual friend there, because we were friends with the person who was the body double for Schwarzenegger in the new movie. And he was talking about how he had his face put on. He was showing us all these like photos of like dots on his face. And everything. It's interesting.
I think it's really interesting the fact that they were able to recreate Arnold Schwarzenegger as he looked back in the 1980s. So this person, was his body like close to the body type that Arnold Schwarzenegger used to have?
I think that their measurements were similar, but like something's telling me that like when you just look at the two fighting, I think that there was like subtle differences. But I guess they were, from the article I read, they looked up. They tried to find everyone in the database who were just registered who had the same measurements as him. And I guess there wasn't too many people out there with the same.
There wouldn't be.
Yeah, like with the same, like waist, chest, and then height-wise, I guess, like within a close ballpark.
Supposedly he took, what do you guys think about the theory that he took monkey steroids, like ape steroids? You remember that theory?
I heard that he took steroids. I didn't know that they were ape steroids, but that wouldn't surprise me because how muscular he was back in the 80s, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me.
It's just his face. Like, his face is just so... see, if I say apey, that's bad. But I don't, well, kind of. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Very...
I get the idea, but I never really thought about it like that. I mean, maybe in Terminator 1, I could kind of see that because I guess he's supposed to look terrifying, so
So are you saying that if there's a certain type of steroids or some type of substance that comes from a certain source, and this source could be bone marrow or other type of things from different animals, because that's how I guess you get ape steroids, is by taking some type of genes from the ape. So you're saying that those genes then have a mutation on the cells that it gets injected
I'm
into?
saying it would be.
That starts
Wouldn't it
to
be kind of weird? And it's a little
do a thing?
coincidence. Like I just think it's a funny coincidence that everyone's like, oh, he took like ape steroids, and then he like somewhat, kind of may resemble one sort of.
Do you realize that you guys just said that Arnold Schwarzenegger is kind of like a caveman? 'Cause he's part ape.
I didn't. I was just trying
I'm
to
just saying-
ascertain
I'm
as
just-
to what's.
I'm just pointing out some weird coincidences going on. That's all I'm saying. But I'm not saying he's a bad-looking guy. I mean, he's not. I mean, obviously, he's not my flavor. But you know, he's
Yeah.
obviously. But you know, he's just. You guys know. You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I'll be back.
Do we? No.
But anyway, you guys ever see Planet of the Apes? The first one, I mean.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
I think I've seen the first one.
Yeah.
I
He
know
had,
I've seen the second.
he had a problem talking, right?
Yeah,
Got back, he couldn't
for
talk, yeah.
a good portion of the film.
Yep.
And then it was really freaky when he saw his friend and he had the lobotomy. He was like, "You cut his brain out." That was scary.
Do you think that could happen?
That could happen.
Well, technically, right now, I think the apes are actually entered the Stone Age. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So I guess they're picking up rocks and hitting each other with it, which is Stone Age.
Do they have posable thumbs?
Well, they do sign language now.
That's our future competition in a few million years.
It's I was watching the smartest ape. I can't Coco. I think her name was.
I know you're talking
Okay.
about.
She
Yeah.
made a friend. Like she does sign language and she talks like all the time to like her handler, and she made a friend. They had to bring a male in to kind of keep her company or whatever. And he was on camera and he's signing like, and he's talking about his life, and he's saying like, they're like translating. He's like came from jungle, mom throat slit, sad, like weird stuff.
Wow.
It's creepy. There's a documentary on it and you see this. It's kind of weird.
You know what we might have in the future? We'll have 3 levels of intelligence. We'll have the computers, we'll have us, and then we'll have simians.
Yep. Actually, I read a study somewhere that scientists say that there's going to eventually be a break. Well, some, I'm not saying all of them. There's like a theory that we're going to break off as a species. And there's going to be like real, like not good looking people, like, you know, and there's going to be like the supermodel kind of couple, and we're going to just break off in a different species. This is like it's like a theory.
That doesn't sound like different species so much as it sounds like some people look better than others. I mean, to be a different species, you have to have different physical type of traits. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but you've got Neanderthals and you got Homo sapiens, and one had different dimensions in the skull, so they'd have to look different that way.
The way they like explained, they were like, there's gonna be like a real batch of like some serious ogres going on,
Okay, got it.
and then there's gonna be like the super like pretty people.
I mean, aren't there already that right now?
Well,
But
I'd like to think that
I would
everyone
say.
is beautiful in a way.
Well, I mean, I would
you know?
say if you look at the spectrum, don't get me wrong, like you got like, you know, supermodels over here, like you said, and then you have
the real
ogres.
monsters. No,
But you know, we actually kind of have that going on right now. And what they said is like the rules of attraction is like different cultures find different things attractive. So like they were talking about a village in Africa. It was based on voice because there's no lights at night, and they would like say like, "Hey, you over here?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm over here." And it was sort of like however deeper the voice went, it showed a correlation with them actually having either better mating practices or having more children because of the deepness of their voice.
Interesting.
And then it showed the same thing with the women, that the women with higher voices were more likely to get impregnated first. And then it talked about just different things on, you know, what it actually is attraction. That's kind of when you get down to the science of it. And it has to do with like, pretty much in a nutshell, it has to do with reproducing and procreating, and then what genetics will give my offspring the best potential, you know, or best potential to survive is what I'm trying to say. And normally it, like when you ask women what they look for, they've said, oh, I look for the chest, I look for the arms, I look for the back. And then I'm like, well, what about like these parts of the body? Like, do you care about that? You're like, oh no, I don't care about that. I just look for this, that, and then the guys, you ask them like, what do they look for? And then there's like certain.
We all know what they look for. So.
Well, no, believe it or not, it's like a certain genetic level, and it has to do with like, and it comes into everything. But once like a male gets ready to like reproduce, he looks at females and tries to determine like, will she be able to have kids? And sometimes, like, if a woman has very small hips, then she might not be a very good choice to like give birth. And this is just going way back. It's like, this is like, you've heard the term like, oh, she has birthing hips. Like, she has hips ready to give birth. And no, I'm just saying, like, that's because of.
That's because men always need to reproduce.
Well, no, it's like, you don't want birth complications. Like, if you're gonna, like, imagine.
That's where that came from.
Well, imagine this. Imagine if life expectancy way back when isn't too long to where you're only living till like you're 30, 40 anyways. And then it takes 9 months to carry a kid, for a woman. So that's like one.
And not all of the babies survive.
Yeah, it's like 1/40 of your whole, like adulthood, or not your whole adulthood, your whole life. And then when do you become sexually active? So now it's even less. It's like 1/30 now. And so that's kind of like taking up almost like a big percentage of your life if you even live to be that long.
Well, the problem is it doesn't matter how long you live. The women, they only have a certain window in which they can reproduce, which is from early teens to about somewhere in the 40s or 50s.
Yep.
And that doesn't change no matter how long they live. So that window is fixed.
Yeah.
So cave people, they probably didn't get to live out that entire lifespan, but even still, you could live to be 100 and the window wouldn't change unless you have DNA resequencing.
I mean, and then like when you like look at the birth, normally the baby looks like the father at birth, or has similar features, and that's so that the father won't leave or like abandon the mother, because
Well, that hasn't worked so far, right?
it does. Sometimes it does, but other times when a father does leave, it might not look like him, or he might not think it is, or whatever problems or situations. I can't talk about fathers leaving and not want to do it, but it's been going on since the beginning of time. But what I can say is there were certain characteristics and qualities of the girl and of the guy which brought those two together to mate. And when you have those two mating, it's usually something that they find attractive.
Six-pack and a little too much fun.
Well, you can have a six-pack and a little bit too much fun, or I mean, let's say, like, I'll take that as like as a booze reference, or you could have a six-pack abs and have too much fun, or you can be just a rich old man with like just unattractive to majority of the population, but when you take your bank statement out, guess who's like a superstar?
Yeah, like George Soros, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he'll be able to mate with other like species or other women, I should say, like species. He'll be able to mate. He'll be able to mate with women because of his money. So it has to do with like what is attractiveness, and then the money thing is basically going back to
security. Right?
Can this man support me in like having like a future and stuff like that? So we're like, am I gonna live in a cardboard box? And that was usually what when you physically when a girl would physically look at a man, if she saw like a big chest and big shoulders, big arms, if he had to get into a fight to protect her, like the bigger chest, bigger back, bigger arms, if like both people don't know how to fight, that usually wins, unless you have like a Bruce Lee fight and like a Andre the Giant, Bruce Lee would probably win real quick, but I don't know. But as it comes down to, I don't know, just like being the level of attraction which brings certain people together, I think is an interesting ball game. And then as society changes over time, we're going to find that different levels of attractiveness will change now, to where you won't have like, for instance, what I'm basically trying to say is, in this computer technology era that we live in, people will get together and they'll get married and they'll have kids who would never ever get together in a sword and like dagger age, to where like you're fighting people on horses and stuff like that. Like,
well, it's a battle of ideas, or a battle of status, or you're connecting with people who you would never physically see, and then that's how you meet. I mean, if not for the internet, we wouldn't even be here doing this show.
That's true.
I think people, people that were named like the prettiest people on Earth, they realized that their facial features were like mathematically, equal and symmetrical. So it's kind of like say like, a guy, like a pretty boy, is gonna look for that in a girl, or maybe a girl's gonna look for that in a guy, and then it kind of like, then they have kids who happen to be good looking, then those kids kind of go off in that, and then that goes to that, and then you have the people that may not be so good looking, and they may not have like these super high standards of like the elite people, you know what I mean? And then they go off branch on their own. That's what I'm saying.
But
like
if that person right there, if
just-
that person right there develops a computer app that sells millions and millions of copies, that person will be able to get someone
that
from
may
over
be
there.
enough
Is what I'm trying to say.
to bridge.
And
It's
and
right.
what I'm saying is, if that age was happening to where like it was, I'm talking like sword and horse, knights or whatever, that person would never be able to get that one over there. Does that make sense? So as you have like, I'm just saying, as you have like humans evolving, attractiveness will evolve to where what's attractive to us now might not be attractive to the same species from what we evolve in like 1,000 years.
Because there will always be that real creepy looking dude who's a billionaire that any chick will hook up
Exactly.
with. I get you.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also true because armpit hair and the aroma that people used to have, that would attract people to be like, oh, that's your scent. Now
Wait,
people
what?
would be like, wait, that scent's horrible.
Well, that's because they're probably related to each other. So normally if you find, I'm dead serious, if you find someone utterly
I'm talking about
repulsive-
caveman days, not modern times.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about too. If you find someone utterly repulsive, their body odor, their smell, to where it's like there's something going on there that you absolutely don't like and want to get away from, chances are that you genetically are related to that individual to where you have a common ancestor.
Interesting.
Isn't it like pheromones?
Yes, all about the pheromone stuff. Because they even did experiments, because I was looking up in the same documentary I was talking about like what is attractiveness.
Then
Like,
how can you stand to be around your family? They were related to you directly.
well,
so
no, what I'm saying is like, all right, check this out. If you went and, let's say I took different clothes from different girls all over the globe.
Okay.
And when I say clothes, I mean like t-shirts that they wore. Maybe they took a jog in it or something like that. Just where their body smell is on
Right.
a t-shirt.
So not socks.
Not socks. And if I had you smell these t-shirts, and then I took one from like your mother or your sister, and I put it in here too as a mix, you'd say, oh, this one doesn't smell bad. This one's all right. Okay. Oh, it's nasty. Like you wouldn't want anything to do with the t-shirt that smells like your mother or your sister based on the smells and pheromones, is what I'm trying to say.
People were just so
Alright.
smelly. But like, this is how I know that if I was alive in like the caveman days, my whole family like wouldn't exist. Because can you imagine waking up and just smelling just all of people's like morning breath all the time? Like,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
imagine like no deodorant, no showers? Would they use like maybe like a plant to like brush their teeth or something like that? I just don't think.
If they even did.
I think my line would have just been non-existent because I don't think I could ever touch somebody. Like but I have OCD with that.
You'd probably just go catch them down at the pool. You know what I mean? Like at the water hole. Like, oh, they're splashing around. And
Exactly.
they're going to
the
be
water
clean
hole.
once
The
they get out of
cleanest
there.
Once I just hunt around there, just waiting for someone to jump in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stock the water hole.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting how we got from mental health to films to reproduction and body
That
odor.
happens a lot.
Yeah, the mental health in films.
Yeah. It's kind of odd, that train of thought,
Let
but
me-
it was interesting
Well,
nonetheless.
let me ask you this.
Sure.
Do you think that everyone within the film industry has something mentally wrong with them in order to proceed to join the film industry?
No, filmmakers, they're storytellers, and they're telling a story in a visual medium. It's no different than writing a novel.
I know, but I thought about just as like, I guess during the human experience of like hunter-gathering, like what's essential for survival. And then I think about,
This is really philosophical.
no, I think about like recreating and telling stories, I guess.
Okay.
And then I say to myself, not, this isn't like, I guess so much as like my judgment, but it looks at like the theater throughout time and like people involved in the theater, like from Shakespearean days and well before, like even like way back when the common people would just do stuff, like with acting troupes. I try to figure out if this person wants to make a living doing this, like how can you pretend to be someone else and then have people give you money? Like how is that a survival skill to where
Wait,
you
what
can
are
actually...
you asking specifically? Are you talking about people in front of the camera or people behind the camera?
I'm talking about just in general of both, to where it's like doing a film, like if I was a cameraman or if I was in front of the camera, this isn't gonna help me in the big scheme of things, like put food on the table, because I'm not doing an action.
If you're
that-
making
I'm
money-
not doing an action that. But what is money?
If
That
you're
comes
making
down to
money,
it. But-
you can buy things, and people
Oh, I
love
understand
to
that.
hear stories. So you're providing entertainment
well,
to the
no,
people.
don't get me-
Storytellers have been alive for since like the beginning of time, and they were very successful since the entertainment. Like people seek
But what I'm
entertainment.
saying is,
Cave
like,
paintings.
well, check this out. What if there was like a whole village of people who agreed that, you know what, we need to like wake up when the sun comes up. We need to be up and ready. We need to go harvest these fields. We need to stockpile, get stuff ready for winter, all this type of stuff. Because if we don't do that, then we're like obviously gonna die, or we have a better chance of getting sick or something like this.
Yeah, but that's a basic thing regardless of
Yes.
your occupation. You
And
have to
then-
go shop and you have to get food in modern times.
And then some guy
you
was
just
back
have
at the
to.
house, like, I've got a story for you when you
Yes,
get back.
yes. How can that actually like make it so that like that works to where like this person lives and survives in the
But
world
you're-
at the
you're
same
thinking-
time? Is that person mentally ill? Is what I'm saying.
No.
Because I'm just saying. Like,
I'm going to cut you off.
Well, they don't wanna
because
go out in the
the
fields and
people
cook.
who are writing these stories, they've lived life. They're
Yeah.
basing stories off of life, so they've been through some things.
Yeah.
They're
Or
not just
dreams,
sitting down
like Harry
and doing
Potter.
nothing.
Yeah.
When I wrote What's in a Fortune, that was based on things I experienced or I saw other people experience. I lived life.
Well, no. I mean, like, I'm on movie sets. I'm doing background stuff, and I asked the question. I'm like, is something fucking mentally wrong with me? Like, why am I here? Like, what? This has like nothing pertinent to like. I guess there's no real like. I don't feel like I was actually contributing, or I was just kind of curious about. Like,
It's a chain of command. Everyone has a specific function. The people to the top, they make the decisions, and you're a cog in the wheel on that film set, unfortunately. And when you have to do your thing, you do your thing. The rest of the time, they're focused on something else. So you have to wait to do your thing, and then you do it, and then they move on.
but I guess like.
Think of it like a colony of bees, and you got the queen bee, and you're one of the drone bees.
I guess.
Don't forget, you can influence mood with movies. So when you make a good movie, feel-good movie, you can make other people feel good. There's a lot of movies like that, you know? So it's
Yeah.
like you could serve a psychological purpose.
I guess when I look at economics and I think about like everything tied into one, if you don't have one, then you can't have the other. Like if there was no one spending money on movies or like on that type of stuff, then you wouldn't have movie makers.
That's
But
correct.
At the same time, the sun still comes up and the seasons continue. You know what I mean? To where it's like the farmer out there is continuing to farm every single year.
I
and
see
do
what
the
you're doing.
fields.
You're taking a totally pragmatic viewpoint of what's absolutely necessary for survival.
Yeah,
If we're talking about
slightly.
a strictly survival-based society, then a lot of things would go out.
Yeah, a
the
lot of
window.
things would go out the window. Don't
You
get me
think about
wrong.
no electricity, like all you would do is tell stories,
Video games.
I think.
What people who produce video games would be out of their mind by that logic, because you don't need video games.
Yeah.
You don't need books. You don't need art. You don't need any of that.
But then it comes into what is mental
so what
illness.
you just told
You know,
us that all artists
is
are insane.
well, no, I'm saying like it comes into like mental illness, and then does everyone have a certain percentage of mental illness? Like, how can you have some people are
Define
perfect?
illness.
Exactly, define illness exactly, and then when people go ahead and give mental illness to others, or like with the DSM-5 or something like that, they go ahead and diagnose someone else based on readings and writings of others. It's like then all of a sudden you find out that the person doing the diagnosis has been, like seeing a therapist for a mental illness.
Okay.
And you're like kind of like, wait a minute here, like are the crazy and sick diagnosing like the crazy and sick? And if you look at the way like the human race has like evolved, there has to be mental illness in everyone, to where like, because you can't have, it comes down to what's normal, and then it comes down to, all right, what's normal, what's mental illness, and then like, is everyone crazy? Like, have you ever done anything that you said like, why the fuck did I do that? I was just serious right now. Did I really just?
Well,
do
there's
this?
also anger.
Or-
People are angry, and it drives them to some type of form of temporary insanity.
Or they lose
Yes,
track
but-
of reality, like
But
schizophrenia.
losing's one emotional cool like that, to where you can actually get to the point of the behavior you just mentioned. Is that the mental illness taking over, or like where does the lack of self-control stop and then mental illness begin? Like, is it?
Oh, I like where you're going with this. You
to
just
where,
said
like,
that all kids are insane.
well, aren't they? I mean, like, no. If you think about it, if all adults are insane,
I think kids
these
are
are just
narcissists.
little crazy, pre-adults here, to where you're like, yo, a lot of adults out in this world are crazy. A lot of people are insane. Like, I don't know a single sane person in this world. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, the kids are perfect. No, the kids are little pre-crazies because they're just like, or the kid is born crazy and then they're going to, just grow into the crazy later.
I can see how they can be, considered little sociopaths because they can't really put together. They don't feel empathy for other people until like a certain age.
Yeah.
So all there are is about themselves half the time. Like.
Yeah, but isn't that like a learned behavior, or is that something you're supposed to be born with? Because it's kind of weird. It's sort of like, I mean, you have people with different blood types, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. And then, are there people born with different set of emotional, like,
I think it's brain
just like
development.
stockpile? It's either, well, I mean, it could be brain development, or like if you look at like you are what you eat, what nutrients you get. That obviously would have an effect.
Well, you're the product of your experiences, so you are what you've experienced or what you've imagined the way things should be, which is a reaction to those experiences. So every experience you have, everything you consume, that becomes you.
Everybody, when they're born, has they have an imagination that's like really big. They can like pretend they're anyone, anywhere. We grow up, we kind of lose that.
Let me ask you this. Let's say, like growing up, if you had a twin sister, and one of you only drank orange juice and the other one drank cranberry juice. All right, and we looked at the physical
Is that possible?
Yes, because you don't drink anything else except orange juice, and you don't drink anything else except cranberry juice. So yes, it's all possible. What I'm trying to say is
I
like,
thought they think the same thoughts.
I know, but if we looked at like the physical, like let's say you guys were 100% identical, like would we see a cause and effect physically on your bodies, either in the brain department, in the organ department, the way they're formed is one slightly bigger? Did like this section of one brain's getting large because they're getting more citrus acid, and the citrus acid has been shown to like directly attach this, and then because now they have in a large section of this brain because of what they've been eating, is that causing swelling or like causing another area of the brain to be abnormally smaller because two objects cannot occupy the same space, so either the space has to get larger to have both those occupants in there or it doesn't. And I looked at this, especially with drinking.
You're talking like in the womb?
No, I'm talking through life.
When they're okay.
Yeah,
Afterwards,
after you
whatever
get
they
born,
have
like
when-
whatever.
I thought you were talking like the space in the womb.
Oh
I was gonna
no,
say, 'cause
that'd be
there's always
awesome
one
if we
bigger
could.
than the other.
Yeah, give like 2 little IVs going into the belly button, like get cranberry juice.
See what happens.
but no, like when you look at just like that type of mental health, I guess, or physical cause and effect, I just get curious. Oh, I was gonna say alcohol. All right, so there have been certain physical features of alcohol that I've actually seen in heavy drinkers as they get older, especially men. And one thing is, like, the head will get slightly large. Have you guys seen this? Like the big head?
Not that I've observed, but I'll look out for that in the future.
Yeah, no, well, if you find out that, like, anyone was, like, if you look up pre-drinking and drinking, you might find that sometimes the head actually just gets fucking large, like, big.
And the nose, too, gets veiny, right?
And the nose gets veiny and, like, gets red and stuff. So you can, and then as, like, they continue to drink, you can actually, if they go drink, their veins will like pop up red and stuff like that. And that's actually one of the similar things to why Asian people get flush or red when they drink. Not being racist here, there's actually like a real enzyme that they are missing in their skin that allows that like white people are able to burn off alcohol better than Asian people.
Interesting.
I
Based
still
on
get red. I get really red.
You're probably part Asian. You should do a blood test. You might find out that you're like 35,
I did do a
35%.
blood test, okay? I
What
did
percentage were
23andMe.
you? 23? That's why. Right there. I wasn't even trying to be an asshole.
No, I was
You're like,
I did 23andMe, but I'm not Asian at all.
I thought you said you're 23%.
No, 23andMe is a DNA. It's a DNA test you take.
There we go.
And you can't be 23% anyway. You could be 25%, but not 23. That would be a strange calculus.
Well, no, it would be like,
But anyway,
bunch of
I'm half
fractions.
Iranian. Iran is in Asia, so
Yep.
you could argue I'm half Asian.
well, I guess there's different. Asia is huge.
I do get a bit red when I drink,
so yeah, I
which
guess
is not too often.
I guess it's Asia, yeah. But yeah.
Oh, and the Mongols invaded Iran in the 13th century, so I could be part Mongolian, however minute that percentage is, for all we know.
This is true.
Mongolian. It just sounds cool.
Well, no, I just the only reason why I even mentioned the drinking part is because I was over in Asia and I was drinking with Asians, and I saw how they would just like become flush and red, and I asked them about it, and they were the ones that told me, oh, like we don't have an enzyme in our skin, so like we get red, and that's why like a lot of them either wouldn't drink, or the ones who did drink just didn't care.
So where did you go in Asia?
I was in Korea for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
It was a good time. But yeah, that's where I noticed about the alcohol thing. And then a comedian was talking about, other people drinking and stuff like that. A comedian was like talking about an actor who he thinks was hitting the sauce pretty hard. And he was talking about how he just got like, you notice like big ass heads. And then I was like, yeah, I guess they do. Like, and then because I looked up the person he was talking about, I'm like, holy shit. And then I saw other people, I guess I was just starting to look at things more.
You know what's going to
because of
sound
someone mentioned
strange?
it.
In the 19th century, people used to associate larger heads with greater intelligence because they thought, well, you have a larger brain.
It was probably because of the wine, and they were probably all getting shit-faced, and they were talking about how large their heads were getting.
So their
because of the
intelligence
grapes.
was expanding as they got
No,
drunk.
they were just making excuses up for themselves. They're like, oh yeah, we're probably more intelligent.
Make you
They're
look
like, I
good.
am so smart. You didn't even know it. Like,
Look at the size of my
no
head.
hats fit me ever.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're just about out of time. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for being on The Rise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.